The sun was barely up, painting the sky over Umuagwo village in streaks of orange and pink, when the shout tore through the morning quiet like a machete through dry grass. "Thief! Thief in the market!" The voice was sharp, raw with anger, and it came from the heart of the Ori market, where traders were just spreading their wares, yams piled high, cola nuts gleaming in woven baskets, and smoked fish stacked under palm fronds. I was there, you see, right by Mamangozi's stall, counting out my coins for a bunch of ugu leaves when the commotion started. My name is Obiageli, and I've lived in Umuagwo all my 52 years, long enough to know that a cry like that could unravel the whole village. The market was already alive with the hum of early traders, women haggling over the price of groundnuts, men balancing sacks of cassava on their shoulders, and children darting between stalls, chasing each other with sticks. But that shout stopped everything. Heads turned, hands froze mid-bargain, and even the goats tethered by the pepper stalls seemed to pause their bleating. I dropped my coins into my wrapper and pushed through the crowd, my sandals slapping the red earth, curious but wary. In Umuagwo, a thief wasn't just a criminal. They were a tear in the fabric of our community, a betrayal of the trust that held us together. At the center of the chaos stood Mazio Keke, the palm wine tapper, his face dark with fury. He was pointing at a boy, no older than 16, skinny as a cassava stick, with eyes wide like a trapped antelope. The boy's hands were empty, but a small pile of groundnuts lay scattered at his feet, spilled from a sack that belonged to Mazio Keki's wife, Neka. "This one," Mazio Keki bellowed, his voice carrying over the murmurs caught him red-handed, trying to slip away with my wife's goods. The boy didn't speak. He stood there, his bare feet shifting in the dust, his ragged shirt hanging loose on his frame. The crowd pressed closer, their voices rising, some calling for punishment, others whispering about who he was. I didn't recognize him, and in a village like Umuagwo, where everyone knows even the chickens by name, that was strange. He wasn't one of us, Obiageli. You saw it, didn't you? Mazi Okeki turned to me, his eyes pleading for a witness. I hadn't seen the theft, only the aftermath, but I nodded slightly, not wanting to shame Maisie in front of the crowd. The truth was, I felt a pang for the boy. His face wasn't hard like the thieves we'd heard of in Aba or Onitsha, the ones who'd cut your purse and vanish into the city. This boy looked hungry, not cunning. Before anyone could decide what to do, Chidinma stepped forward. She was barely 14, the daughter of my cousin Adayeze, with a sharp mind and eyes that saw more than most. Chidinma worked at her mother's vegetable stall, sorting okra and ugu with a quickness that made her the pride of our family. She wasn't loud like other girls her age, but when she spoke, people listened. "Mazi Okeki," she said, her voice steady. "Let's hear the boy's story before we judge him. The market is for trading, not fighting," the crowd murmured, some nodding, others scoffing. Mazi Okeki's jaw tightened, but he didn't argue. Chidinma had a way about her, a quiet authority that reminded me of my late mother, who'd been a dibia, a healer in her time. The boy looked at Chidinma, his eyes flickering with something, hope, maybe, or fear. "What's your name?" Chidinma asked, stepping closer to the boy. He hesitated, glancing at the crowd as if expecting a blow. "Ifeanyi," he said finally, his voice low, almost lost in the market's hum. "Ifeanyi from Umunike." That name sent a ripple through the crowd. Umunike was a neighboring village, smaller than ours, hit hard by last year's floods. Their farms had drowned, their yam barns had rotted, and many of their young men had left for the cities, leaving families struggling. Ifeanyi's ragged shirt and bony frame made sense now. He wasn't just a thief. He was a boy from a place that had little left to give. "Why did you take the ground nuts?" Chidinma asked, her voice gentle but firm, like she was coaxing a goat back to its pen. Ifeanyi's eyes dropped to the ground. "My sister, she's sick. No food for 3 days. I didn't want to steal, but—" His voice cracked and he stopped, swallowing hard. The crowd's mood shifted. Some faces softened, others hardened. Mazi Okeki crossed his arms. "Hunger is no excuse," he said. "If we let every hungry boy steal, what happens to our market? Our trust?" He wasn't wrong. The Ori market was the heart of Umuagwo, where we traded not just goods, but stories, laughter, and promises. A theft here wasn't just about ground nuts, it was about breaking the bond that kept us whole. But Chidinma didn't back down. She looked at Ifeanyi, then at the crowd and said, "What if we help him? Not by letting him steal, but by giving him a way to earn." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just another market day. Chidinma's words sparked something, a chance for redemption. Not just for Ifeanyi, but for all of us. I'm telling you this story now as I sit under the udala tree by my compound, because what happened next changed our village. And it all started with a girl who saw more than a thief in a hungry boy. The market day didn't end with Ifeanyi's capture. Chidinma's suggestion hung in the air like the scent of smoked fish, and the crowd was divided. Some, like Mazi Okeke, wanted the boy handed to the village council for a flogging. Others, mostly women who'd known hunger themselves, murmured about giving him a chance. I stayed quiet, watching Chidinma. She was young, but she had the heart of an elder, the kind who could settle disputes with a single proverb. "Let's take him to the council," Mazi Okeke insisted, grabbing Ifeanyi's arm. The boy flinched but didn't resist. "He'll learn his lesson there." "Wait," Chidinma said, stepping between them. "Mazi, you're right to be angry. But what if we lose more than ground nuts by punishing him? Umunike is close. If we shame their son, what will they say of Umuagwo? That we have no mercy." Mazi Okeke's grip loosened just a little. Chidinma's words weren't just clever, they touched on something deeper. Our pride as a village. Umuagwo wasn't just a place. It was a name we carried with honor. We were known for our yam festivals, our kola nut blessings, and the way we welcomed strangers with a shared bowl of igusi soup. To send Ifeanyi away in disgrace would stain that name? "What do you propose then?" asked Neka, Mazi Okeke's wife, her voice softer now. She'd been silent, her eyes fixed on the spilled groundnuts. I could tell she was torn, angry at the theft, but moved by Ifeanyi's story. "Let him work," Chidinma said. "He can help at my mother's stall, sort vegetables, carry baskets, whatever we need. He earns his keep and his sister gets food." No one loses. The crowd buzzed. It was a bold idea, especially from a girl so young. I glanced at my cousin Adais, Chidinma's mother, who stood behind her stall, her hands on her hips. Adais was a practical woman, not one for risky ideas, but she nodded slowly, her eyes proud. "If Chidinma says he can work, I'll allow it," she said. "But he answers to her. And if he steals again, it's on her." Chidinma didn't flinch. She looked at Ifeanyi, who was staring at her like she'd offered him a bag of gold. "Do you agree?" she asked him. Ifeanyi nodded quickly. "I'll work. I swear by my ancestors, I won't steal again." Mazi Okeke grumbled, but let go of Ifeanyi's arm. "One chance," he said. "One mistake, and he's out." The crowd began to disperse, some satisfied, others skeptical. I stayed, watching as Chidinma led Ifeanyi to her mother's stall. She handed him a basket of okra and showed him how to sort the good ones from the bad. He was clumsy at first, his hands shaking, but Chidinma was patient, her voice low and encouraging. I wondered what made her see something in him that the rest of us missed. Maybe it was her youth, or maybe it was something deeper, like the way my mother used to see the truth in people's hearts. That night, as I sat by my fire, roasting corn and sipping palm wine, I couldn't stop thinking about Ifeanyi. Umunike wasn't far, just a few hours' walk through the bush, but it might as well have been another world. The floods had taken so much from them, and I remembered the stories we'd heard at the last New Yam Festival. Families eating only once a day, children too weak to play. I wondered about Ifeanyi's sister, the one he'd risked so much for. Was she really sick, or was it a story to soften our hearts? The next morning, I went back to the market, curious to see if Ifeanyi would show up. He did, earlier than most, standing by Adaizi's stall with a broom made of palm fronds, sweeping the dust around the wooden table. Chidinma was there too, arranging bundles of ugu leaves, her movements quick and sure. She glanced at Ifeanyi now and then, not like she was watching for mistakes, but like she was making sure he was okay. "Obiageli," she called when she saw me. "Come, try these new tomatoes." Fresh from Mazi Ugo's farm, I walked over, pretending to inspect the tomatoes, but really, I wanted to see Ifeanyi up close. He kept his head down, focused on his sweeping, but I noticed his hands, calloused with dirt under the nails, the hands of someone who'd worked hard before coming here. "You're doing well, Ifeanyi," I said, testing him. He looked up, surprised, then nodded. "Thank you, Ma." "Don't call me Ma," I said, smiling. "I'm not that old yet." He smiled back, a small, shy thing, and went back to his work. Chidinma caught my eye and grinned, like she knew I was checking on her plan. I bought a few tomatoes and left, but I kept an eye on them from a distance, watching how Ifeanyi carried baskets for a days, how he listened to Chidinma's instructions without complaint. He wasn't just working. He was trying to prove something. Days turned into weeks, and Ifeanyi became a fixture at the market. He wasn't a stranger anymore. Traders started calling him by name, teasing him about his skinny arms or asking about his sister, whose name we learned was Amara. Chidinma told me Amara was 7, with a cough that wouldn't go away, and Ifeanyi had been bringing her food from the market. Bits of yam, smoked fish, even a small bottle of palm oil Adaizi gave him. I started to believe his story, but not everyone did. Mazio Keiki, for one, kept a close watch. "He's too quiet," he'd say, tapping his palm wine gourd. "Thieves are always quiet before they strike again." Others agreed, especially when small things went missing, a handful of cola nuts, a bunch of bananas. No one could prove it was Ifeanyi, but suspicion clung to him like dust to a sweaty brow. One evening as the market was closing, I saw Chidinma slip something into Ifeanyi's hand, a small parcel wrapped in banana leaves. I thought it was food at first, but the way she glanced around, making sure no one saw, made me curious. I didn't say anything. Not then. Chidinma was family, and I trusted her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was taking a risk. The next day, trouble came. Neka, Mazi Yokeki's wife, stormed into the market at midday, her wrapper tied high and her voice louder than a rooster at dawn. "My cola nuts," she shouted. "A whole basket, gone." I know it's that boy. The market froze again, just like that first day. Ifeanyi was at Adaizi's stall, stacking yams, but he stopped, his face pale. Chidinma stepped forward, her hands on her hips. "Neka, are you sure? Did you see him take them?" "I don't need to see," Neka snapped. "Who else would it be? He's the thief we caught before." The crowd gathered, their voices rising. I pushed through, my heart heavy. I wanted to believe in Ifeanyi, in Chidinma's plan, but a whole basket of cola nuts was no small loss. Cola nuts weren't just food, they were sacred, used in every ceremony from weddings to funerals. Stealing them was like stealing from the ancestors themselves. Chidinma didn't back down. "Let's search his things," she said. "If he took them, we'll find them." Ifeanyi's eyes widened, but he nodded. "I didn't take anything," he said, his voice steady but quiet. "Search me." Adaiz opened the small sack Ifeanyi carried, where he kept his water gourd and a few personal things. The crowd leaned in, expecting to find the cola nuts. But there was nothing, just a worn-out comb, a small knife for peeling yams, and a piece of cloth tied around a few coins. Neka's face fell, but her anger didn't. "He's hidden them somewhere else," she insisted. "Then let's go to Umuneke," Chidinma said, her voice cutting through the noise. "If he's hiding cola nuts, they'll be with his sister. I'll go with him myself." The crowd gasped. Umuneke was a rival village, and though we traded with them, there was always tension. Old disputes over land, water, even marriages gone wrong. For Chidinma to suggest going there, a girl of 14 was bold, maybe foolish. But Adaz nodded. "Go," she said, "but I'm coming with you." I couldn't let them go alone. "I'm coming too," I said, ignoring the ache in my knees. I wanted to see this through, to know if Chidinma's trust was misplaced, or if Ifeanyi was more than a thief. The walk to Umuneke took 3 hours, through bush paths lined with iroko trees and the hum of cicadas. Ifeanyi led the way, silent, his shoulders hunched. Chidinma walked beside him, asking about his sister, his home, like they were old friends. Adais and I trailed behind, whispering about what we'd find. "That girl has a big heart," Adaisi said, "but hearts can be blind." Umunike was smaller than Umuagwo, its compounds scattered like seeds on dry soil. The floods had left their mark, roofs caved in, yam barns empty, and the air heavy with despair. Ifeanyi took us to a small hut at the edge of the village, where a girl lay on a mat, her coughs weak but constant. Amara. She was small, her eyes big, in a face too thin for a child. Beside her was a basket, not of kola nuts, but of dried leaves and roots, the kind used for medicine. "Where are the kola nuts?" Neka demanded, her voice softer now, seeing Amara's state. "I didn't take them," Ifeanyi said. "I swear by Allah, I didn't." Chidinma knelt by Amara, touching her forehead. "She's burning," she said. "She needs a dibia, not accusations." I looked around the hut. It was bare, with only a pot of watery soup and a few yams, likely from Adesi's stall. No kola nuts, no sign of theft. But something caught my eye. A small banana leaf parcel, just like the one Chidinma had given Ifeanyi. I picked it up, unwrapped it, and found a handful of ground nuts. Not kola nuts, but enough to raise questions. "Chidinma," I said, holding up the parcel. "What's this?" Her face didn't change, but her eyes flickered. "I gave him those," she said, "for Amara. She needs to eat to get strong." Neka's eyes narrowed. "You're giving him our goods? Helping a thief?" "He's not a thief anymore," Chidinma said. "He's working for us. He's earned it." Ades stepped in, her voice calm but firm. "Chidinma's right. I told her she could give him small things for his sister. It's not stealing if it's given." Neka wasn't convinced, but Amara's coughs filled the silence, and I could see her anger faltering. We left the hut, promising to send a dibia from Umuagwo to help Amara. On the walk back, Chidinma was quiet, her eyes on the path ahead. I wondered what drove her to risk so much for a boy she barely knew. Was it pity, or something more? Back in Umuagwo, the kola nut mystery wasn't solved. Neka's basket was still missing, and whispers of theft spread like smoke. Ifeanyi kept working, but the trust he'd started to build was fragile. Chidinma didn't waver. She taught him how to bargain with customers, how to spot good yams, even how to laugh when the traders teased him. Slowly, he became part of the market, not just a boy from Umuneke. Then, one morning, the truth came out. It wasn't Ifeanyi who'd taken the kola nuts. It was Chuka, a boy from our own village who'd been sneaking small things to sell in Aba for quick cash. He confessed when Mazi Okeki caught him trying to take a sack of onions. The market buzzed with the news, and Ifeanyi's name was cleared. Mazi Okeke didn't apologize, but he gave Ifeanyi a gourd of palm wine, a quiet gesture of peace. Chidinma's plan had worked. Ifeanyi wasn't just a worker now, he was one of us. Amara got better thanks to the dibia and the food Ifeanyi brought home. Chidinma never boasted, but I saw the pride in her eyes when she looked at Ifeanyi, now strong enough to carry 2 baskets at once. As I tell you this story, under the udala tree with the evening breeze, carrying the scent of roasting yam, I think about what Chidinma taught us. She saw a thief and chose to see a boy, a brother, a son. She took a risk, not just for Ifeanyi, but for Umuagwo, to show we could be more than a village that punishes. We could be a village that heals. The Ori market is still the heart of Umuagwo, but it's different now. When I walk through it, I see Ifeanyi at Adayaz's stall, laughing with Chidinma as they sort tomatoes. I see Neka sharing cola nuts with a stranger, breaking them with a smile. And I see Chidinma, still young, but with the wisdom of someone who knows that a single act of kindness can change a village. That's the story I want you to carry with you. The one that started with a shout in the market and ended with a boy who found a home.